you guys, we have Eddy Buttons, and he is just such an inspiration, especially to me. He's an amazing storyteller. I think you'll be able to listen to him for hours. Eddy is someone who just really cares about the people that he is serving in whatever capacity that is, whether it's DJing, whether it's hospitality, whatever he puts his hand to, his art, he's there to make people feel happy and inspired. And so I hope that you guys learn a lot from him. He has some really exciting things he's working on right now, and I'll let him share a bit about that, but you'll definitely get a lot out of this. So thank you, Eddy, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Natalie.
Of course. So let's, I know a little bit about your growing up, but I think it's such an amazing story. When you were younger, what were some of the things that when you look back, you're like, oh yeah, that was me at a young age?
Still to this day, I really think that there's two major components of it is music and sports. Those were places where I knew I could feel safe or go to escape. Eddy, as a kid, riding his bike around the block, I built relationships with some of my neighbors where I'd stop by and say hi. I remember this one lady on my block used to she had a birdhouse and she had hens and stuff like that. And she would give me Mr. Freezies and say, hey, come and look at the hens, Eddy. And even at a young age, it's this curiosity. I always had a curiosity to connect. And I think that I tapped into it at a very young age. I tapped into my intuition at a very young age because my mom, she's an amazing woman. She's been through a lot. When her mom died, she went off the rails a little bit and put me in situations where I had to adapt and grow very quickly. And so sometimes you're around not the best people in the world, but I could feel them. I already knew what they were doing. I already had an intuition. It was a curse and a gift. Mm-hmm. So all these things came through with me. Even I did a mentorship course last year at the University of Calgary, and there was a session on mentorship and intuition. And your mentors, in that moment, the teacher said, think about your very first mentor. I'm like, oh my God, man. And my first mentor was my first grade teacher. And his name is Luc Durocher. And he was a teacher in Hawkesbury at the elementary school there. And I hadn't thought about him in years, but I knew he was the guy. He knew there was something going on at home because I was fighting other kids all the time. And it was library day after my most recent fight. And he put me to the side while the other kids are already in the library. And he said, Eddy, do you like to fight? And I said, no, I don't like to fight. So he goes, I know you don't like to fight. I don't think that's you. So he goes, listen, I got a deal for you. All the kids in your class only get to take out one book. But he goes, if you don't fight, I'll let you take 2 books. And I said, okay, I won't fight. And so I held up my end of the bargain. And around that mark, the 3-month mark, he said, hey, Eddy, I'm very proud of you. And he said, you should really start playing basketball. It was like a kids basketball league. He was he was talking to me about playing this basketball at a young age. And he was the first guy that I was around who played guitar, which I picked up later in life. But I ended up a couple years down the road, 2-3 years later, I'm playing basketball with his son. And so he saw me evolve in basketball too and go into a different path. But he was the spark one of the first sparks in my life where somebody believed in me. And this is the reoccurring theme I feel, is that where would I be without Luke, his belief? Where would I be without my general manager right now, Patricia Ma? She's the most recent mentor that has given me that belief, but there's been so many people in between that believed in me. And I didn't really believe in myself. I'm 39 years old. I didn't start tapping into my gratitude and my belief until I was working with Oxford Properties. That's when, like year 2 or 3 with Oxford, I tapped into my gratitude because of the success, and I was able to reflect on what got me there. And I still do, right? The good times, the bad times, the hardships, all the struggles that life gives you, but then you turn around and you're able to make some good out of it. And so all these people are with me, and that self-belief, it's crazy to think. My mom, a loving woman, her mother was her best friend, still didn't have self-belief in herself, my mom, because she never went to high school. She went, but dropped out at I think it was like 9th grade. My dad, coming from the Philippines, he started working when he was 7 years old. And he actually ran away from home and was taken in by a family in the Philippines as a kid. And he didn't have that self-belief. So how could I expect my parents to give me that self-belief? I had to go out there and find it for myself so I could instill that self-belief in my daughter, Ruby, because I want to break that cycle.
That's so powerful. That's everything. And I think that's why it's so important to have community and to have mentors and to have people who believe in you, because sometimes you need that buffer until you can get that for yourself. And so that's huge, I think, for anyone who's trying to figure out what their purpose is or where they're meant to be or go. It's important to surround yourself with people that believe in you. And like you said, it's those springboard moments where all of a sudden now you believe in yourself, and now and it can take time. It can take time to unlearn all of those things.
I have a beautiful daughter. She's 14 years old. We share the same birthday. We're very close. Her name is Ruby. And when I realized that, I called her. I call my daughter and I say, Rubes, do not let anybody convince you, your mind, your inner voice, that you cannot go after your dreams.
That's so good.
Go after your dreams. So we go full circle. So my dreams into my daughter's dreams. But as a kid, I never thought that I could apply my sensitivity, my genuine care, my curiosity about people into a career where I get paid to be highly organized. So yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's really cool to hear how you can tie that together now, but when you were young, you had dreams and you had aspirations and you didn't know how it would all come together. What other things do you think were things that were resistance for you along your journey of figuring out what you wanted to do and who you wanted to be?
I think it was really all about really venturing out. For me, when I graduated, it was 1999. I was 17 years old when I graduated from high school. I wasn't even 18. And I even I remember my mom had told me, you should go to the headquarters for the Canadian military in Ottawa. And my stepdad took me there. And I went there and I'm looking at the board in there and I'm thinking, I don't know. I don't know if this is what I want to do. And so I remember my mom was like, Eddy, I'm going to start charging you $300 a month and money for groceries if, you're not going to go to college, right? You have a job, but I want you to start paying rent, but I'm 17. So I'm thinking, okay, now I have to make moves, have some money saved up. I have some relationships with some people that are in Ottawa going to college already. I'm going to go over there and just scope it out. So I go there for a week and I'm thinking, no, this is not a fit for me. And so I had connections in Montreal. And so I went to Montreal and had friends there and I found a bachelor apartment for $275 a month by P9 Metro Station, which is by the Olympic Stadium, the Big O. And I said, this is it. I'm going to stay there. It's $25 cheaper a month. And with the rest, I can find a job, no problem. At this point, I'd worked for Jean Coutu when I was like 16. So in a pharmacy, retail. And I had actually won my first award in customer service when I was 16 years old, where we had supper in Hull, Quebec, with the president of Jean Coutu, Mr. Coutu. We had supper with him, and I still have that picture at my mom's house where I'm shaking his hand and I'm 16. So that was the first time that I had an indication that, hey, maybe I had a future in this, but I didn't know. But yeah, I didn't go to post-secondary until I was 31 years of age. So I went from wanting to find what I was passionate about, but I had many jobs. I had that job when I moved out west. I had humble beginnings in the hospitality industry as a housekeeper,
Yeah.
as a night cleaner at the Banff Center. I worked at the keg. I was a busboy. I cleaned tables. I ran drinks. Then I got into the kitchen. I cooked. I worked in seismic. I worked in the oil fields. And then this is like the biggest lesson in my life. It was actually found when I went and worked in the oil fields, where we're in a camp, a seismic camp. And one of my mentors, Mark, who was our foreman, he noticed that I wasn't out with the boys drinking. And so he came to my room and said, "What's going on, Ed?" And I said, "Oh, Mark, I just don't want to be drinking out with the boys tonight." And he said, just a second, just a second. So he comes back to my room, gives me a book, a nice like moleskin type of book. And then he says, "What do you want? Write it down." So I said, "I don't know what I want." He goes, "Where do you want to work? Because I know you don't really want to be here doing seismic." And I said, "I've been daydreaming in the fields lately about going back to Banff, and maybe someday I could work at the Banff Springs Hotel." So he says, "Okay, I want you to write that down. Specifically, I will work at the Banff Springs Hotel. How long is it gonna take for you to work there, Eddy? How long is it gonna take?" So I said, "Maybe a year." So he said, "Okay, write that down. I will work at the Banff Springs Hotel in a year's time," right? Specifics. And that's where he said, "That book is yours from this day forward. When you want something, you write it, you be specific about it, and you go for it." And so eventually, within 4 months, I'm back in Banff, but I'm working at the keg. It's a small community. And at the time, I didn't have a cell phone. I was very elusive. I was an elusive character, even to my family. I would call them from a payphone with a cheat sheet card. And my friend Mitch, who I was a flatmate with at the Banff Center, this is a testament to relationships. I built a great relationship with a flatmate. He knows I'm back in town. He knows they need people at the Banff Springs Hotel. Finds out I'm at the keg, calls the keg and asks for me. And I remember my boss, Maddie, said, "Ed, don't let your friends call you here. And I said, if they're calling, it must be an emergency. So I pick up the phone and it's Mitch, and Mitch says, hey, Ed, I heard you're back in town. I want you to meet Nanette Weir, who's the guest services manager at the Banff Springs Hotel. She wants to meet you. And if, she likes you, then you'll have an interview with HR and then with the other manager of our department, and then you'll be in. And I said to Mitch, I said, yo, Mitch, I saw the posting for that job, but I don't have a college education. He goes, Ed, don't even worry about it. You have the personality. It's the personality we're looking for, Ed, not necessarily academic. Yeah, Mitch convinced me that I should do it, and I did it. I met with Nanette and went through the entire process. And next thing you know, I'm working at the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel in Banff. And it's something that I wrote down within like a 4-month period. What I wrote down had come into fruition because of perhaps a mentor, somebody that I knew in my network, and here I am there. I would say that working there was where I got good training in terms of customer satisfaction and being in service to people from Calgary, to people from Japan, people from the UK, Germany, all over the world, and elite people that are rich and famous. So I got a taste of a little bit of everything, and that really upped my game. And yes, that's where I felt like the shift was starting to happen, but very slowly, into my career in customer service, hospitality, and then into the commercial real estate world.
It's amazing. I think I love the part about writing things down. And you, even just from listening to you, you seem like you have a lot of dreams, a lot of things that you can imagine or picture. So is that something after that moment, is that something that you still do now? Like when you have ideas, do you write it down? And how does that look?
Yeah, I'm constantly writing. I'm writing in books. I have hundreds and hundreds of voice memos. I apply it not just for my professional career. I also apply it for my personal life and my artistic life as well. So it all, has a symbiosis. It's all connected, and I feel like if we don't write things down, you can end up forgetting. But it's the way that you manage those ideas, and whether it's a creative folder for music production, which is labeled 2021, like sample beats, or 2021 production tracks, or any ideas that I may have for other creative endeavors that are coming up here this year in 2020,
That's
2021.
2021. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nothing there.
Yeah.
So to see you now, like I know you're springboarding into some new things, and I really think it is that connection of like you stepping into, this is Eddy, this is what I'm created to do. So maybe like now that you've found your voice, you found your groove, as you move up, what are the things that are your values in terms of like how you do your job and how you see the things that you create?
I think where the success came from was really genuine care. It came from attention to detail. And when I mean that, I had a mentor at the Marriott Hotel, and there was a wall of fame for her at the back of the Marriott Hotel. And then there was all the other employees from that department. And I'm like, what is she doing different? And I remember she had a Post-it note beside the computer where she would check people in. And let's say she's checking in Naomi, she would put Naomi 8:00 a.m., first name, last name. And then after the interaction, she would put it in her Outlook calendar at 8:30. And then let's say Naomi walks by the lobby again, she would call you, by your first name or last name. And then the person would say, wow, she remembered my name. But by doing that, she would remember the name. And then for the next time. And then she would create an impression, but she would take it a step further. She, on the reservations on the computer of the hotel, you could look at what region that they were coming in from. I'm highly impressed by her. And one time I had a moment with her and I said, "You love sports. You're a big sports fanatic." And she goes, "No, I don't like sports, Ed." And I said, "You don't like sports? Is this a joke? I heard you talking about Carey Price with a guy that was coming in from Montreal." And she said, "I don't like sports, but they do. And I only have a minute to 5 minutes to make an impression and build a bridge. So the bridge is sports. So I read on sports a lot in my free time so I can elevate my game from within this company." And yeah, she moved. She did very well for herself. So that always stuck with me. That being said, I utilized her method. I applied it. She's not at the hotel anymore, but it's Stampede of 2011. And two guests check in and they're from the States. And they checked in and they wanted two pairs of tickets to the Garth Brooks concert that was happening at the Dome for Stampede. And they gave me their budget. I called the ticket broker I knew. It was $200 under budget. I put them in contact with the broker. They met in the lobby. They were happy. And I remember that by name. They had a very kind of generic name, like a Smith, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And the broker said, "Hey, for the business you sent my way, I have a single ticket. If I don't sell it by a certain time, I'll drop it off at the front desk for you, and then you can go and see the concert." So I said, "Perfect." So here I am going to the grounds and I'm walking around and I'm alone and I see the couple. So I call them by their names and it's out of context because I'm not a front desk agent anymore. They look at me and I said, "I checked you in." And they go, "You're from the hotel? You're the guy who got us the tickets and checked us in? Oh my goodness, you remembered our names." And I said, "Yeah." And so I said, "Have you tried all the crazy carnival food over here?" And they said, "No, we haven't tried." I said, "You should really try it. I'd love to buy you just a treat, the two of you a treat, and then we can make our way into the Dome because the show is going to start in like 40 minutes here, 45 minutes. So yeah, we grabbed some carnival food and we're talking, just quick chit chat. I escort them to their gate and then we watch a show. And that's that. Then maybe 4 or 5 months later, it's the town hall meeting at the Marriott Hotel. And the GM is at the town hall addressing all the employees. And he presented me with an award from the Marriott family from Washington that's called the Spirit to Serve. And I was shocked. And it's this couple that took the time to write a letter to the main branch of Marriott Hotels in Washington, D.C., and just to recognize how I made them feel. And that led, just that moment led to creating that impression for the brand and then for the hotel. GM was happy. Everybody in my department was happy. And then it led me to the springboard in my career. It was this energetically speaking. So I knew I was ready for something else. And then soon thereafter, I find myself working my dream job, doing concierge work in commercial real estate, still built on the principles that we're talking about, getting to know 3 clients' names per day, documenting it every single day. After 6 months, you're like, okay, I'm really good at 3 now. Let's try 10 a day. And then by year 2 or 3, then you're saying, okay, I'm not doing 10, I'm doing 20, 30 a day. Because when you're working in these environments in the office towers, sometimes you have 3,100 clients to upwards 5,000. It's like a small village. And to build the relationships to get to what it is that makes people tick or their preferences, you got to know them by name.
One thing that I think just to connect all of this too is that I think it's important for people to realize that even though you work for a company, or maybe it's not your own business, but you're working for someone, you still have your own personal brand within that place. Like people knew the Eddy brand everywhere you went. And that's, I think, what sprung you into a lot of things because people remembered how you made them feel. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit, just like how being authentic and being yourself has opened up doors for you just from being you.
I'm working on an exciting project here in 2021 with Heinz Management Canada. When I started working with 8th Avenue Place, one of my 5-year goals when I started was to have a culture show, like a media show to bridge relationships between people in our community to provide content that has value. This big idea, I think, was in a year 2020. At the end of it, I pitched the idea to my GM and I said, there's no better really year to release the culture roulette to our tenants, where I would feature stories and community members to inspire them and entertain them in a virtual world, because I still want to be able to connect with our clients in a different way where they get to see me too, but like interacting with these members of our community. And so the Culture Roulette is a culture show that examines the various quadrants of culture, from the human experience to history, the arts and entertainment. And it's just a culmination of all these cultural ideas and into discussions about the human experience. And it's been really inspired by Anthony Bourdain and Action Bronson and Nardwuar, and most recently Sean Evans from Hot Ones. And then with my own flavor and touch to it, and putting my own brand. And I have a fantastic team that's helping me with this, and I couldn't do it without them. Once again, we're tying this back to relationships that I've built over the last decade here in Calgary, is the way that I'm able to curate guests once a month. And then it's a big endeavor because I've never done anything like this. It's like the same approach that I've had with music, whether it's my first album that I recorded, which is called 3 Weeks. We recorded this album. It's a folk album, and I recorded it in 3 weeks. And it just, whether it's music or this media, this visual media, storytelling, it's the same approach. I will put a good product out, but I think it's a learning experience. I think of Action Bronson's F Word That's Delicious show. Season 1 to 2, excellent, but season 3 and 4, they're hard to beat because they know what works and what doesn't work. And I think that learning from these guys, I really have a good idea. I've been taking lots of notes, lots of writing, and I can't wait to share this with our tenants and the entire world, because this is going to be featured on YouTube and IGTV as well. So that's what's coming down the pipe this year.
It's really exciting. And it's just a picture of when you work hard and you believe in yourself and you write your dreams down. You don't know where it's going to come from, but it's coming. Like here you are creating something that you dreamt 5 years ago, and you were just prepared and you were ready. And I think that quote of preparation meets opportunity, that sometimes, even though we have these big dreams, they don't happen right away, and it's okay, but to just keep working at it and thinking about it and putting it out there. And I'm really excited for that journey for you. And we'll make sure that everyone has links to find you. So I know you're going to be successful because I think that it's the right time, and you put a lot into this, not just in the idea of it, but just in who you are and the connections that you've built. And so I'm excited. So this will be like the interview before Eddy's show takes over the world, and I'm excited to have the first one.
Thank you.
Where can they find you?
They can find me online at Freelance YYC. Yeah, they can find me there on Instagram. They can find me on YouTube.
Thank you, Eddy.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Thanks to everyone for watching.